Alright guys, welcome back to the Grappling Media YouTube channel. If you like this video, please make sure you like it and subscribe. I'm here with Keller Lochke, Sodhi, owner of Grappling Education and former ADCC trials winner. Today we're going to be going over the confirmed -80 division for CJI for the $1 million. We're going to be running through the athletes, who we think's the favorite. We're going to be running through the rule set and how we think the overall event's going to outplay. And we'll also discuss, is this the greatest Jiu-Jitsu card tournament bracket of all time? We'll get into that a little bit, but I'll pull up the card now. So obviously a lot of standout athletes on this, Kel. Who comes out for you first when you look at this bracket?
Three main people that I think, and when I say three, it's actually four, but I count the twins, the Rotullo brothers, as one person because it's too hard to predict what's going to happen with those two. For me, it's basically the Rotullo brothers, Mateus Denise, and Lucas Barbosa, who I'm looking at. Greatest chance to win the division. But as you said, is this not possibly the greatest grappling tournament that there's ever been? One of the greatest divisions there's ever been. Anything can happen in a division like this. Everybody is extremely dangerous. Nobody can be counted out in this division.
So looking at the rule set, it's 3 rounds, 3 almost mini matches within, right? Each round is judged by a certain amount of judges, and then whoever wins the most of the matches at the end is the victor, unless obviously the match finishes via submission. So looking at that as the rule set, what do you think are some factors that, as a grappler, are so important to win that tournament? So what attributes does a grappler need to win this tournament? What are going to be some of the main ones?
We were just speaking about this before we started the podcast, and we're sort of breaking it up into some attributes. Basically, there's a couple of things, and I said this to everybody. Is that when you compete, it's a factor of many things. But there's 3 major things to me. Number one is all the technique and conditioning that you have. And when you show up to a tournament, you can't change that. You just have what you have. But then there's other factors on the day. On the day, the 2 huge factors. One is luck. Luck is massive in a grappling event. Anything can happen at any point in time. And the third and final thing is your mind space, like head space, how much dog you have on the day and how well you compete. And some people can switch that on all the time, like that dog. And others can't. And I think that's a really big factor for what is going to literally change the outcome of this. So you were breaking it up into categories, you wanted to say earlier, of mindset, dog, cardio, strength, and technique. And those being the 4 sort of heads of what's going to be a great grappler. And you wanted to talk about who do you think in this bracket dominates those 4 things, right? So going into dog, we were saying earlier, I think it's obvious to say Lucas Barbosa. By the way, I think actually earlier we were talking about dog and strength. So I think we can't deny that strength does make a difference to jiu-jitsu.
It does, 100%.
It's huge. People that tell you that strength doesn't work in jiu-jitsu are just
bullshit.
They're bullshit lies, or they've got a massive ego. And because you're beating them, because you're stronger than them, they hate it and they tell you you're doing the wrong thing. But strength is a legitimate technique.
Strength helps the application of the technique.
Now, the reason why I think strength is so much more relevant in this division than it is in anything else is that it's split into under 80 kilos and over 80 kilos. So we have people like Mateus Denise who fought under 88 kilos at ADCC. He's cutting all the way to 80 kilos. Same with Barbosa and these guys. Strength is going to play a huge factor in this. So we talked about ranking the top 3 strongest athletes.
Looking at it, I think it's fair to say Barbosa, Jason Nolf, just based on his wrestling pedigree, that guy has got to be strong because wrestling is obviously it's an Olympic sport. It's these guys are professional athletes. These guys are proper athletes. You know what I mean? They're not just jiu-jitsu athletes. Mateus Denise, just because minus 88 kilo. I also wanted to throw in Majid Haid because he's known as gorilla hands. He's known as like having one of the strongest grip strengths in the fucking in jiu-jitsu. He has like super fucking big hands. So I also just wanted to mention him. But yeah, it's interesting. We were talking again earlier about the Rotullo and Barbosa dynamic, and saying that the Rotolos, I think for most people, are going to be looking like the favorite to win this thing. But then when you play into it and you look at, say, Ty's match with Josh Hinger and how he fell short against a teammate of his, a superior to him in the sense that, Hinger and Barbosa, they would have seen these kids growing up. They would have always been their leaders, you know what I mean? The person they kind of looked up to. And some want to speculate that the Hinger match was thrown or whatever, but all I can see is what my eyes saw, and I saw Ty lose that match. And you talking about mindset and dog and how that plays into it, maybe that's also a factor that you have to think about is, do these guys look up to Barbosa? Do they have a certain sense of, he knows their game so well inside out, he knows what their weaknesses are, what their pros are?
I don't think it's so much that he knows their game.
Yeah.
I joke with you about this in training, and I talk about, I'll say to you, I'm inside your head, Freddie.
Yeah.
And that's part of like a game that I'm playing, because I know that at some point in time, you're younger than me, you're going to overtake me anyway. Like, that's just the nature of me aging in sport and the way it is.
Yeah.
But the truth is, and maybe I see this more from my perspective, is that the second that you put somebody on a pedestal in your mind, the way in which you fight against them changes completely, because you have no belief that you can actually beat that person. It's removed from your brain. Now, if you think about the age gap between Rotolos and Lucas Barbosa, I actually don't know what it is, but I guess it's about a 10-year age gap. It's a fairly large age gap, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So imagine,
I think even more than that, but yeah.
Yeah, imagine being like 8 or 9 years old and you see Barbosa in like peak form training, and you're looking up to this guy who just looks like an absolute animal. And then you try and roll with him, and there's nothing you can do. You can't even touch him. In that circumstance. And then for the first time ever, you're competing against him with like 10 or 12 years of psychology in your mind that you cannot beat this person. I think that changes the dynamic of the fight by so much.
Yeah, I can't not agree, but I will say I don't think we should undermine the Rotolos. These kids they're also dogs. You know what I mean?
Oh, I completely agree. I still am betting on the Rotolos.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like Cage just had an MMA fight. These guys are not fucking afraid of anything. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like they have the grit. And going on to one of the other heads that we were talking about is the cardio factor, which I think is huge, because you need to win 3 of these matches, you know what I mean? And it's not good enough to be good in the first 5. You've got to be ready to win each of those matches and not get submitted in that period. And something that I was talking about earlier was the AOJ guys, and they discuss this a lot, is they favor playing guard in the beginning of a match, and they favor playing top position in the later stages of the match. And the reason for this is, from bottom position, it's much easier to get attacks and submissions off fast. You can get underneath, get into the legs very fast, right? In order to attack from top, most of the time, you're going to have to pass the guard, get to a pin, and get to a submission, right? It's a longer process. But also you see that later in these matches, guys that solely rely on their guard, guys like Levi, I'll be interested to see if they're going to be able to hold their guard 10, 15 minutes into a match when these guys have had time to wear on people. If you watch, great examples of this is if you watch Cade versus Diego Pato. Diego Pato, one of the best guards in the world. Cade passes him in the 13th minute of the match, and it looks like Pato almost gave up. He was just so fatigued of retaining north-south, and Cade subbed him 1 minute after passing him. And that is a clear tell sign of fatigue. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
This is going to be controversial, but let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum then, because this is a factor in fatigue.
Yeah.
Who are the 3 weakest players in this division? You've got people that are fighting up, like in weight, to try and make up to under 80. So who?
Strength factor.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting quote. That's kind of hard to determine, right? I would want to say maybe like...
Well, who's giving away the most weight?
Who's giving away the most weight? Levi. Levi is definitely giving away a lot of weight.
Levi definitely physically looks a lot smaller than a lot of these guys.
Yeah, he does. He is very flexible and has a... I don't know how many... I think there's only the Rotolos and Andrew Tackett are going to be able to pass his guard. Maybe Roberto Jimenez, What
about Renato Canuto? He's quite small.
Yeah, he's also another small guy. Very flashy grappler, but quite small. Yeah, I'd say him as well. Even Andy Varela is quite a smaller grappler, like especially a guy that wants to stand up and wrestle. I feel like, especially when wrestling, weight means a lot, and it's going to be hard for him to take down the likes of a Jason Nolf, the likes.
So you're calling Andy Varela weak?
I'm not saying he's weak. I'm saying that in these are the best grapplers in the world.
Andy Varela, Freddie called you weak. I don't think you're weak.
Andy Varela is one of the
Can't believe you said that about him.
One of the most entertaining grapplers to watch. I think he's a fucking beast. But I do think that in terms of this division, he is giving away some weight compared to the guys of Lucas Barboza and so forth. Mm-hmm. But going on, we'll go on to talk about that next phase. You wanted to talk about the cardio. Who in this division do you think has the best cardio?
Oh man, that's so hard to know. To be honest with you, like, I gotta ask you, do you know much about Jason Nolf?
Jason Nolf? I do know that he wrestled at Penn State. He has done some stints at Vanguard. He's training with Isaac Michelle and those guys. Okay. And he has been doing jiu-jitsu for a little bit. It's not like he's green going into this.
Like how long has he been doing jiu-jitsu?
I think a few years. I think 1 or 2 years, something like that.
I'm biased because I just love wrestlers and judo players because of my background.
Yeah.
It is a sport that's more demanding on cardio.
Yeah.
But I don't know enough about him really to make a comment, but I would have to put him up there in the top 3 for cardio.
For cardio, yeah. I would think so as well. Even though wrestling matches typically shorter matches and this is going to be longer, I think the mentality, and no one in this bracket is going to be able to take him down.
Yeah.
You know? You're going to, like...
Not that that matters necessarily.
Not that matters, but not saying necessarily that you even have to pull guard. You might be able to find submissions and other things because jiu-jitsu does change the dynamic of the stand-up. We've seen this. But, he's definitely got to be up there. I think also, obviously, the Rotolos are up there. And I also want to say Andrew Tackett. Andrew Tackett, I think Andrew Tackett, for me, I almost want to pick him to win this whole thing. I know people might say that's crazy, but I really respect Andrew Tackett. I got to watch him in Vegas. I got to watch him dominate Joseph Chen, dominate Jacob Couch. He ran through Tommy Landlacker at the most recent Who's Number One. Passed his guard 2-3 times, took his back, submitted him. He had even like a good match with Mika not too long ago. Like, he is legit, and he has just as much dog and grit as the Rotolo brothers. He also just beat PJ Barch, who's...
So can you see Andrew Tackett running through Mateus Denise or running through Lucas Barbosa?
I'm not joking, I can.
Okay.
I'm seriously not joking, I can. I think...
You gotta remember that this Andrew Tackett is a smaller guy as well, but, you know...
I know, but I really, really back Andrew Tackett. I truly believe in him. I think he's going to shock a lot of people and push pretty far in this. I'm not I think he has a very good chance of winning this.
Okay. Does that mean like that you also think that Andrew Tackett is the most technical guy in the division?
I think he has extremely technical passing. He has a game that he knows his A game. His game is passing, getting to the back, submitting on the back, and he does that well, and he does that against everyone. Like I've said, he's dominated Joseph Chen, dominated Tommy Landlacker, dominated Jacob Couch. I'm talking dominating these guys. Joseph Chen did knee bar him earlier in the career, but they had a match after. He is a fucking force, man. I want to see him versus one of the Rotolos. That for me is like...
That'd be cool.
That for me is going to be like a fucking blood war. It's an insane match, yeah.
See, when we talk... about like, most technical grappler, I think always like a really good litmus test to work out who is actually technical or not is ask yourself, out of these 16 grapplers, if somebody brings out a DVD, whose DVD are you most likely to buy just based on that person's technical ability and your trust in whatever they're going to bring out, they've got a good technical ability. You know?
Yeah. In that sense, I would have to look at guys like Joseph Chen, Nicky Ryan, Levi. I think Nicky Ryan has a big wealth of knowledge. I think where Nicky Ryan is going to fall short is what we were just talking about earlier, the two factors of cardio and the dog. You know what I mean? I think when Nicky Ryan gets pushed, when it comes to the nitty-gritty areas, I think he does fall short at times. And I don't want to be mean to him. Like, I really like the guy, but... Just looking at recent results, other than that JT match, which was good, he lost to Janardis Gracie. He lost to ADCC first round, and it does look like he fades at the end of matches, you know. So
and so
Elijah Dorsey as well, he lost.
So you've just said Joseph Chen and Nicky Ryan, 2 guys that you'd buy a DVD.
And I think Levi as well. I want to shout Levi out as well.
Okay. And why the discounting of Joseph Chen then? If he's one of the most technical guys in division, he's actually got really good cardio. He's quite strong. He's trained at Grappling Education. He actually taught here for like a month.
Yeah.
He's a fairly, and this was over a year and a half ago. He's much stronger than he was now. He's strong. He's got good cardio. He's a good athlete. Why the discount then?
The thing with Joseph is I haven't honestly. I know Joseph is world class. I know he's great, but I haven't made my mind up yet, and I haven't seen enough to distinguish if he's world class, that top 5 caliber in a weight division. You know what I mean? I haven't seen enough because, like I said, he did just run through Elijah Dorsey. Very impressive performance, and I do think Joseph definitely has the potential to be that top dog in this division or in the world. But I just haven't seen it yet. Levi most recently beat him, taking his back.
He had that match with Isaac as well.
He had that match with Isaac. He got ran through, no offense, but it was true. But I think Joseph is a guy that's constantly improving. You see him training with guys like Diego Pato. He goes around to a bunch of gyms. Like he really is soaking in all the knowledge. He has a great mind. And when he was here, like just hearing him, really is a student, you know, like coming to a gym like this where he's obviously teaching classes, he's obviously, you know, like this world-class guy, he's still willing to listen to anyone in the room and kind of roll with anyone in the room and take in information from anyone, and I respect that a lot.
I think something else that we discount often in any sport and in grappling especially is that I think sometimes people think that some people just wake up and they know how to compete.
Yeah.
But learning to compete is definitely a skill. And the more that you compete and the more time that you spend competing, the better you get at dialing in your mindset and switching on all the time. And one thing that we've got to remember about Joseph is that in terms of like jiu-jitsu years, he's been training for what, 4.5, 5 years?
Yeah.
And then like how many times or in that space of time, how much opportunity has he had to compete and dial in that competition mindset? And I feel like maybe, as you said, like his last match with Elijah Dorsey where he ran through him.
Yeah.
Maybe that's an indication, and now he's really started to dial. He's breaking through. He's dialing in the competition mindset. It's starting to work. His ADCC trials run was very impressive.
That did look like a breakthrough performance. I think he's very calculated. Like, I can see that he also has the likes of Deemer in his corner. I can see that when he goes into a match, he has a game plan, right? The Rotolos, Andrew Tackett, I don't know if these guys have a game plan. I think they just go in and they're like, I am just going to enforce my game on this guy and I'm going to win this match with my A game, right? Yeah. I think Joseph, he's so well-rounded that he looks at the weaknesses of these guys and he looks at the way that they play and he sets something up for that style specifically. Harder to do in a big tournament like this when you don't know who you're going to be facing. You're going to have multiple matches thrown at you. It's not a super fight where you have time to prepare for the guy. And that's why I'm not as confident in Joseph taking out this whole thing, but I wouldn't be surprised if he has some confident wins. And then speaking about the technical side of things, I think people get confused with the Rotolos that these guys are just kind of spazzers or they're just like, you know, they've been doing jiu-jitsu so young and they're athletic freaks. These guys are unbelievably technical. They are probably the best guard passers in the world. They're some of the best submission threats in the world. And they're just like Joseph, they are constantly evolving. When they first broke into the scene, they were DAS attackers. Everyone was saying, these guys are front headlock specialists, they're DAS attackers. Then they started having the wrestling factor. Then they started having the passing factor. Then they started working their leg lock game and their knee barring guys. And they are dangerous with so much variety of submissions. They have the cardio to go a fucking hours and hours and hours. It's going to be super hard to break them, and it's even harder that there's fucking 2 of them. So if you get through one, there's probably another one fucking... you know, like that honestly makes it so hard that there's 2 of them, and they're basically the same fucking thing. You know what I mean? And they're also big boys. Ty competes at minus 88, although I know that he does that so his brother compete at 77. I know Ty can make 77 if he wanted to. these guys are not small either. They're very long framed, and I think they're going to be able to hang with anyone in this division.
You know what I find very... I agree with you. You know what I find very strange coming back to this, you're talking about technique.
Yeah.
Is that when I asked you if somebody released a DVD, who would you like most likely like watch or listen to? And this is a strange thing about psychology. You picked Levi, Joseph, Nicky Ryan, and you couldn't shut up about Andrew Tackett.
I love Andrew Tackett, yeah.
They're the only four guys, basically, like the only four guys in the division that don't have any major accomplishments. So we look at like Tommy Langaker, world champion, NCAA wrestling champion, Lucas Barbosa, 3-time no-gi world champion, Mateus Denise, and all these people that have proven their technical ability through their results, we're discounting. And to me, results, like the guys that win world championships again and again and again, they win it because they have all of the things that they need.
Yeah, they have the factors we were discussing
earlier.
The
factors we're discussing. I agree with you. We shouldn't discount these people at winning it, but results speak more than anything else, I think, in sport.
Yeah.
You know
no, I agree with that 100%. And that's why you gave me that question. I'm not saying Levi, Joseph, or Nicky are one of my favorites, but I do think that their technical prowess is not something to be discounted. However, do they have all those factors? Nicky Ryan, I don't think he has. Levi, I don't know if he has the well-roundedness enough, the wrestling ability to be able to hang and the cardio to be able to withstand the Rotolos. Like Ty and Levi, they had a match in the gi, and Levi got absolutely ran through. So you know,
I just think that one thing that I've realized in sport is that there are levels in sport.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly humbled by like thinking that you're at a certain level and then somebody just comes in the room and just absolutely decimates and destroys you.
Yeah.
And maybe for us, like the viewers that are watching this sport, guys like Joseph Chen, Nicky Ryan, Andrew Tackett, Levi Jones, they're more relatable to us.
Yeah.
Because they're still not at that complete level where we perceive it to be as an almost untouchable athlete. And so then when you're thinking about these untouchable athletes' technical ability and you compare it to yourself, you almost believe that it's not achievable yourself to do that because they're so far ahead in the levels. Yeah. And then we start to discount their technique in a different kind of way. We're like, oh, well, they're just absolute beasts. Yeah. And I think that's what happens a lot when we look at a division like this. Yeah. The guys that you relate to the most, like Andrew Tackett and that, we give them so much credit because they're more important to us as a viewer. Do you understand that concept?
I understand the concept.
And I think that we were getting thrown out a lot by that.
Yeah. I understand that.
That being said, we've sort of like talked about all like the different factors in all of this.
Yeah.
The final thing that I really wanted to chat about is this rule set has never been played before.
Yeah.
And what you need to think and ask yourself is how does, like, let's say we talk about Ty Rutulo or Cade Rutulo.
Yeah.
Okay. How does he gain the judge's favor 3 times in a row against the under 88 kilo ADCC world champion, right? Are they 5-minute rounds or 10s?
I think it's 5. So okay, it's 3 5-minute rounds.
So how does he gain judges' favor 3 times, or like in these 5-minute rounds, with ease for each round? It's not about a submission. It's not about scoring points. It's literally judges' favor.
Yeah.
Is it as easy as we think for these guys to always gain a judge's favor as they come through?
I think that's when I think actually it completely favors someone like the Rotolos because they're guys that are constantly putting out, and they constantly put out things like when you don't have a points rule set, moments matter, right? Things like submission attempts, things like guard passes, like things like scrambles. Like for example, if you look back on the Ty Rutulo Felipe Pena match, Felipe Pena pulls guard, gets a penalty for that match. Later in the match, sweeps Ty Turtles, gets one hook in, not good enough, doesn't score, and wins that, right? But you could have said in that match that Penner would have won a decision if it was no points, because he swept, he came on top, he put a hook in, right? Moments matter massively in these matches, and I think that guys like the Rotolos, who are super hard to submit and get out of there and are constantly throwing up fire, it matters so much. It's like it's the same reason why you see guys like Diego Pato, they dominate the who's number one scene, because who's number one, it's sort of similar in the sense that it's no points and it's a decision based, and guys like Diego Pato who are constantly attacking your legs, throwing up submissions, it looks good to the judges, and I think that's going to be a big factor, is the biggest submission threats on here. A guy I also wanted to talk about that we didn't give any love, who I think has a good chance, is Roberto Jimenez. It says here, IBJJF absolute no-gi world champion. This guy's competed against guys like Nicky Rod and taken his back. Like, this guy has competed against the higher weight classes. He's cutting down. He's also got a win over Cade. He submitted Cade on the back. I think it would be tough not to mention Roberto. Roberto, for me, is such a talented grappler, but he can be so inconsistent.
Yeah.
I'd be really, really interested to see him. But yeah, going back to your point, Kel, do you want to give your opinion on that?
Well, I honestly think that when we come to judges' favour, often, to me at least, what dictates a fight is not always just how many good attacks you get in, but it's often attack rate. We talk about this in training a lot. It is really difficult. Like, if you try and do 10 attacks in 5 minutes, like good attacks, that's so difficult to make happen. But that is what changes a judge's opinion. That's what the audience want to see. And even if it's not being pulled off, it makes a massive difference. And so, for that reason, like, definitely the Rotulos, they have got a massive attack rate. You see them attacking all the time, and they're moving a lot. Renato Canuto, also someone who has fairly decent cardio, super exciting to watch. His attack rate is really high.
It's ridiculous.
And from a judge's perspective, I think that can really change the outcome. Now, if I knew more about Jason Nolf, and I thought that he had better jiu-jitsu, because the problem with a wrestler, someone who's really good at wrestling, they can be nullified in a knockout tournament by somebody that just pulls guard, and then there's not much you can do to deal with it. But yeah, I think Renato Canuto is going to have a huge attack rate. Judges' favor can change on that. Same with Lucas Barbosa. That guy presses forward. He doesn't stop very much. Mateus Denise, who is ADCC world champion, we look back at his fight. He's a slow fighter.
He is. Much more controlled.
He's controlled
paced.
And paced. But that doesn't necessarily win a fight when it's judges' favor.
Exactly. And Mateus, I do think that he is on the tail end of his career. You see this happening a lot with athletes where, they win a world championship, and then they sort of relax a little bit. And I'm not saying he's done that, but his most recent performance at ADCC 2022, he lost to Giancarlo Bodoni, there's no shame losing to that guy. But I do think that Mateus, I think his prime was 2019 when he won the title, and maybe he's not as active as someone like the Rotolo, someone like Andrew Tackett, someone like Lucas Barbosa. I think Barbosa, it's just going to be hard to put that guy away. Like, he has a seemingly perfect style for this. He doesn't have the submission prowess, but he has the pressure and the attack outright prowess of constantly trying to take you down past your guard. He's gonna be a beast. I'm interested to see what he looks like cutting to fucking -80, because speaking to half guys that have trained with him, they don't even know how the fuck he's gonna do it. They think they got his cut off his leg or something. But
he'll make it happen. Anyone for $1 million, you would consider cutting your leg off.
Exactly. And that's another thing we have to factor in, is it's $1 million. These guys are not tapping to shit. Imagine you're in the finals match, and you're going up against the guy. The second place gets $10,000. The first place gets $1 million.
That's a really good point.
These guys aren't going to be tapping to anything.
I honestly would let my leg break for $1 million.
Of course you'd let your leg break.
And so that's when the cardio comes back into it.
Yeah, and the dog.
Okay.
The dog.
So, Freddie, I think that we've missed something on factors here. If we have missed something, we'd love to know. So comment comment below, and we'll talk about it in the next podcast if we have missed a factor here. But that being said, I think it's too hard to like rank everybody like from 1 to 16. But what's an interesting thing to do, and this is if we do this where we rank a top 4 and bottom 4, I think it's always dangerous to rank a bottom 4. Yeah. But the thing is, it's not. We're talking about one of the hardest divisions in the world, and it's not detracting from that person's jiu-jitsu. Yeah. It's more so, does that person fit this rule set the right way? Because anybody, as we said here, can win this. But it's like, who do we predict can win the rule set?
Everyone in this world class.
Yes.
If you're in this, you're world class. Yeah. You know what I mean? Do you want to start by...
For the top 4, who I would... Okay, well... Straight away, we take out 2, which is the 2 Rotolo brothers. Yeah. They're also ranked the highest. They've got the best odds on
Shuffle.com, Craig's gambling website. Yeah.
We won a lot of money on that, by the way.
Yeah.
So the Rotolos, I have to give it to Lucas Barbosa just because I think his style and the way in which he can push makes a massive difference. And if he can cut the weight, he's got so much weight on top of people.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not as good at leg attacks or other stuff, but as you said, I'd let my leg snap for $1 million.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
The 4th spot is really difficult for me. At first, I thought Mateus Denise. It was in there. But then the issue is, can he win with this rule set? So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe Roberto Jimenez.
I think Roberto. I would put Roberto over Mateus, but yeah, for me, I have the Rotolos. I have Andrew Tackett because I truly believe in that guy. Yeah. And for my last spot, it's a toss-up between Roberto and Lucas Barbosa. I want to say Lucas Barbosa because Roberto can be so inconsistent. But I think when you look at those 2 athletes for me, Roberto's just as big, right? He's more used to fighting bigger guys in the sense of he's had matches with Nicky Rod. He goes into absolute divisions, like I said, absolute no-gi world champion, and he's a much bigger submission threat than I think Barbosa is, as well as Barbosa being on the tail end of his career. He's been for ages. I don't know how serious he's training anymore. However, I'm sure that everyone in this division is going to be peak physical condition.
Yes.
And is going to be ready for anything to throw at them. So I'd probably put Barbosa in there just because he's the more consistent grappler. But that's for me the 4. Going on to the worst 4 or the bottom 4.
I don't like to say worst 4 because it just means people that aren't going to suit the rule set very well.
Exactly, the rule set very well.
Do you want to go for it?
Yeah, for me, I think an obvious one that I have to chuck in is just based off of just competition results is Majid Haid. I just feel like he's had a lot of losses in the recent years, and just too many guys in this division to...
I also think, just take away competition results, we talked about style, and we talked about what can win this.
Yeah.
Majid Haid is famous for his half guard. Yeah. And playing half guard on the bottom.
Yeah.
From judge's perspective, that's a slow position.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
There's not a lot that's happening there, and he obviously submits people from there all the time. He can setups, but it's a long setup to get to it. Yeah. 5-minute round. It's very difficult. To make that work.
I agree. Yeah. I'm also gonna have to. I also have to probably lean for similar reasons because of the style is Nicky Ryan. Unfortunately, I just think that Nicky, the cardio and the output is gonna be too much for him when it gets to that last 5-minute round. I feel like it's gonna be really tough for him to overcome someone, especially like the Rotolos are just Nicky Ryan's worst stylistic matchup I can ever think of, you know. And same thing with Andrew Tackett. I just think it's going to be really hard for Nicky to pull off later stage attacks if he can't get them out early. Kel, who comes to mind for you?
Man, I don't know about Nicky Ryan discounting him so much. I think, as we said, it's like. Money creates better athletes. There's a lot of truth in that. The best athletes in the world are the athletes that get paid the most. And I feel like Nicky Ryan is going to really rise to the occasion. His cardio is going to be the best it's ever been in his life.
I hope you're right, because I think Nicky is one of the most technical guys in this. So I hope you're right.
Yeah. it's so difficult for me because to be honest with you, I want Flanagan. He's a great leg locker, but he also like you
from the -88 division. He's a big boy.
He's a big boy, but these guys are just world class.
Yeah,
I'm just not sure that he's at that level yet.
Yeah, he has that one win over Mason Fowler. Which is, I think Mason Fowler is one of the better guys in the world, and I think that was a great win. But since then, hasn't been competing much on the world scene. You haven't seen him on any Who's Number One shows or anything like that. I feel like he's a bit of like a mystery card, a wild card in this. I find, you know what I mean. I feel like he has great leg locking attacks. As we're saying, judges' eyes, you know what I mean? He plays a very sloppy style of butterfly half. He literally calls it sloppy, where he likes people pressuring into him to get underneath. That can look negative, you know, based on judges' decision.
And what about Jason Nolf?
Oh, fuck yeah. I mean, Jason, I actually love that he's in this because it's such a wild card and it's such like a wrestling pedigree, dog heavy. You know he's going to be entertaining. I think you have to put Jason Nolf just because he doesn't have the jiu-jitsu pedigree.
Well, the thing is, it's like at the end of the day, everybody's trying to submit or go for submissions.
Yeah.
Whilst he's probably he is the best wrestler in the division, we can agree on that.
Yeah.
The question is he going to get submitted? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and I just can't see him making it all the way through the finals in any kind of way without getting submitted by one of these top level submission artists along the way.
Yeah, they're too savvy on the legs. They're too, he is at Vanguard, which he has Jason Rao on that, but I just don't think it's going to be enough. Yeah, so I think that's the 4 that we mentioned. The one last question I just wanted to say.
We only mentioned 3 actually.
Have we mentioned 3? Okay,
yeah. Well, you can pick the last person.
Okay, last one. Oh, fuck. I think I do have to go with Renato Canuto. I think he is very entertaining, but the weight, he's a bit smaller, and if he can't get a flashy submission off, I don't know how he's gonna fare.
Who would you back to win out of Renato and Levi?
Levi.
Okay.
I don't know if Renato's gonna be able to pass him. I think Levi takes his back.
Okay.
Yeah. I really rate.
The only reason why I'm being swayed by that is that we're looking at Nogi world champion versus the easiest trials to winner. Because let's be honest, it's between European and Oceania trials. I think Oceania trials is easier to win than European.
I also have to agree. Unfortunately, being from Australia, and you obviously having won that trials, you're discrediting your own achievement. But
it's just the truth. It's just the truth.
Yeah, it's just the truth. You know what I mean? It is the truth. Yeah. So, Kel, who for you is your final spot for that one?
It's really hard for me to pick, to be honest. I was literally just picking off achievements.
Yeah.
Levi has had some amazing achievements in the gi. He's recently transitioned to no gi.
Yeah.
Not to discredit all of it, he is one of the smaller guys in the division.
He is.
And he's just on accolades. He's ADCC Asian Trials winner, and I just discounted Owen, who is ADCC European Trials winner in a weight division above him. So just based on that,
that's a very good point. If you're going to say that, I think that's a very good point. Yeah. The last thing I wanted to touch on, and just an overall question I wanted to ask you is this the greatest bracket of all time?
When you asked me that, right, the first thing that came to my mind was, oh man, it could be better. But
it could be better.
But that's obvious.
Yeah.
The question is it the greatest of all time?
Well, what is the greatest of all time? Things that come to my mind.
I actually don't think. Yeah, well, what comes to your mind?
Well, things that come to my mind is the ADCC absolute brackets. Okay, when those are released, you have the likes of the Rotolos, Kainan Duarte, Felipe Pena, Gordon Ryan has been in those. The Buchecha, like the famous Felipe Pena Buchecha match at the end of the absolute final. Like you've had so many, but that is favoring the
heavyweights.
The heavyweights.
Well, let's just say that this is the greatest under 80 bracket. Then.
Yeah, it is definitely the greatest under 80 bracket of all time.
Yeah.
In terms of the greatest bracket ever, I think it is. I think it's up there.
Yeah.
But it's missing some of those top tier. If you had the Diego Partos in here,
Mika Galvao,
then it would be. If you had Mika Galvao, Diego Parto in here,
In fact, you know what? If I could, let's just talk. If we could make this the greatest bracket of all time, what I would love to see, is Miki Galvao, Diego Pato, Tynan Dalpra in there.
Oh,
because that would be awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And I would love to see Mikey Musumeci in there as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, Mikey has a super fight on this, but
but you could imagine having him.
If you had that,
that would just be like
that would just be insane. Every match would be like a what the fuck, you know, it'd be insane. And maybe we get that in the future. Craig's talking about doing multiple of these. Hopefully we get that in the future.
CJI 2025, make that happen, please.
Fuck, please, God. Please. Yeah, Mika's gonna bite eventually.
Yeah.
He's going to bite eventually. It's going to happen. Yeah. But anyway, All right. That's it for this one. Thank you, Kel, for coming in. And that's it.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.